Catholic bishops in the country are very determined to reconcile the president with his deputy. They believe, like most of us who look at Kenyan politics deeply, that this beef between the highest authority in the land and the second in command cannot end well for the nation called Kenya. But this morning, the Star newspaper has brought into the public domain something that weekly intelligence briefing subscribers have known for a long time. And that is the fact that this is not the first effort at reconciling the two. Indeed, this is not the first effort by the Catholic Church in Kenya to reconcile the president with his deputy. But even more shocking is the revelation that the two have been exchanging bitter text messages. And some close allies of the deputy president, and indeed close allies of the president, have seen some of these text messages. So, what are the contents of these text messages? Because they may give us a clue as to where all this started. On today's show, we are going to take a deep look at that. But before that, tafadhali, wacha niongee na watu wangu. Now, regulars on this channel will know for sure that above everything else, I have your back. I worry a lot about the challenges facing you. And I regularly share information to help Kenyans and even ideas. I was taught a long time ago that to be an effective analyst, your hand must always be on the pulse of the nation that you're trying to analyze. And this means being out there mashinani with ordinary Kenyans, with the down and out. And anybody who does this will very quickly agree with me that it is impossible, if you're human, not to feel the pain of ordinary Kenyans, not to empathize with ordinary Kenyans. Now, in recent times, the situation has spread to what we call in Kenya our middle class. And some months ago, I did a video on the suffering of our middle class. You know, these are not the kind of people to do a serikali saidia video. No. These people normally suffer chini ya maji. One of the worst things that can happen to a human being. My apologies, I'm getting carried away emotionally. Let me stick to the point. The time has come for us to think out of the box to survive. And today I want to share some ideas with you. And I hope to be doing this on a regular basis. I will share this in 2 clips, 50 seconds each. Enjoy, and you're welcome to thank me later. Feeling discouraged and just about to give up? There was a time that the nation of Japan was in precisely that situation. But their turnaround was so spectacular that many people find it difficult to believe that a nation that is so rich today was very desperate not too long ago. Their main secret was in a killer strategy known as creative imitation. This is where you copy an idea and make improvements. The Chinese are using exactly the same strategy today, but focusing on making their products as cheap as possible. The great news is that you too can use the same strategy to change your situation in a very spectacular way. Watch the video now on the Kumekucha Chris channel on YouTube, which not only gives you more information, but reveals where you can get tried and tested ideas to copy immediately. In the year 2016, I had retired from politics. I wanted to enjoy an ordinary life. Those close to me and my family were overjoyed. And as a rule, I avoided the news as much as possible. And I avoided political news like the plague. But occasionally, I could not resist the urge, to peek at the newspaper headlines when I came to a newsstand. And online, although I tried very hard, I could not resist taking in political clips. And I noticed something. The body language between the president and his deputy had changed. It was hostile. I dived back into many political reports, newspapers, online, videos, etc., etc. Nobody had noticed. And I dismissed it. I told myself, Chris, you're getting old and rusty. You must be crazy. There's a general election next year. How can they be in this situation? And there's an election next year. Chris, wacha hizo zako. And I distanced myself from politics even more. But Almighty God had other plans. Everything around me started collapsing in a very spectacular manner. But I noticed, every time I dived back into politics, shida ilituliza boli. I finally got the message. Every time in this life, you end up where you're supposed to be, where you're destined to be. There is a certain peace that comes over you. And even happiness, despite whatever circumstances you're passing through. Anyway, regulars on this channel will know that we were the first to break that story of there being a problem between number one and number two. And of course, we're headed to a general election. So everybody ignored it. And my fans forgave me, for being crazy in the head. But after the elections, a Kenyan who is known to all reached out to me. And they asked me, Chris, please clarify. Did this problem start before the election or after the elections? And of course, I responded without hesitation. It started long before the elections. And they just shook their head. Who you, Chris? Akona shida. Something has happened to him. And of course, when it became common knowledge that there was a problem, this same person came back and was much more attentive this time. Chris, please, just tell me the whole story. How did this thing start? But I didn't know. Come on, Chris, you know something. How did you see this thing so early? You must know something. And I suspect to this day, maybe they believe that I was holding something back. Now, in politics, politicians can have a misunderstanding over ideology, political issues. And that one is easy to resolve. You just find a middle ground. Or if it escalates, some responsible Kenyans, like the Catholic bishops, can come forward And within a very short time, the two politicians will find some middle ground. But sometimes, politicians can run into a problem, a very big misunderstanding that is personal. Maybe even linked to politics, but personal. Now that one, sorting it out, impossible. Those who have seen some of the text messages exchanged between number 1 and number 2 have the following to say. The problem is personal and it is very deep. It would take a miracle to sort it out. Only a miracle can sort it out. What? And so the big question is, where does that leave the rest of us Kenyans? Because there's an African proverb that says, when two elephants fight, it is the grass and the vegetation that gets the brunt of that fight. Ndovu zikipigana ni nyasi umia. You know, we all love our 2010 constitution. However, in my opinion, there are too many people involved in crafting critical aspects of that constitution who do not understand the dynamics of our politics. And it is now becoming clearer by the day that this huge crisis has been brought upon us by the 2010 Constitution. You know, we have too many outsiders and even insiders in politics who believe they understand, but actually they don't. And this is scary, because even President Mwai Kibaki was sure that he understood how to fix Kenya's problems. But actually, he had no idea. Clearly, he had no idea how Kenya really works. And he was always an insider at the highest level. Imagine that. The NGOs involved in crafting our 2010 Constitution and the political analysts looked at the suffering of previous vice presidents and they said to themselves, let's make it impossible for that to ever happen again. And so they joined the president and the deputy at the hip. And voila, we're in this crisis that we are in today. Because in the days of Jomo Kenyatta, the first president of Kenya, and in the days of Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi, it was very easy to get rid of your vice president. The president made a decision, and that was it. The rest was all political optics. Political damage control. Let's get rid of this fellow, but let us limit the political backlash. So let us take our time. Let this thing happen over a few months. Those glorious golden old days, text messages, SMSs, did not exist. Because I don't want to imagine a text message between Jomo Kenyatta and Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. I don't want to imagine Jomo texting, Jaramogi wewe ni ng'ombe. And then Jaramogi texting back, vile nilikusaidia kutoka jela na kuwa rais, wewe ndo ng'ombe ya mwisho kabisa. Jomo, Jaramogi wewe unacheza na moto, nitakusiaga kama unga. Jaramogi, nikipigania uhuru, wewe ulikuwa jela. Ebu jaribu tuone. Or text exchanges between President Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi and George Saitoti. Moi, we Saitoti, nyamaza. Nipokurokota huko university, ulikuwa naendesha Volkswagen, ilikuwa natoa moshi nyingi. Hakuna kitu naweza kuniambia. Saitoti, moshi ni wewe. Vile nimekuwa loyal kwako, alafu unanilipa na hii, malipo ni hapa hapa. There comes a time when people have to come back to their senses. Now, in a previous video, I painted a scenario of what would happen if the deputy president resigned today. And the problem is twofold. One, the 2010 constitution. Two, this guy, Deputy President William Samoei Ruto, is not Jaramogi and is not Saitoti. He has support within both houses. He regularly shows up at press briefings with an impressive lineup of support from politicians from both houses. If the deputy president goes for promoting another political party while he's in another one, the one he's firing barbs at, then it will mean that all these other politicians have to go for the same reason. Even if they don't resign, that means very many by-elections right across the country. That means, in the spirit of our treasured 2010 Constitution, it means that the Jubilee government cannot stand. In my view, it is a very frustrating position for a president. Hear me out, those who don't support him. And just for a minute, get away from personalities and imagine it was you. The buck stops with you. You are responsible, ultimately responsible. And yet you are not allowed to fire your deputy. You are not allowed by the Constitution to put your house in order so as to be in a better position to deliver services to the Kenyan people who elected you. How does that work? It is now clear that the president has been very determined to put this issue behind him, to ignore it, and do everything in his power to deliver on the promises made to the Kenyan people. But the response of his deputy has been very bitter. How is it possible people who did not form the government can actually take my position and start dictating things? And yet I was bang in the middle of forming this government. How does that work? Now, unfortunately, our deputy president's character does not allow him to stop for a minute and to lose a bully over his emotions and say to himself, for the sake of the people of Kenya, for the greater good of the country called Kenya, let me look like kuku ambaye imenyeshewa, and let the people of Kenya benefit. Let the people of Kenya, long-suffering people of Kenya, go forward. And then later, I will come back, pick up the pieces, and in 2022, I will do my best to get elected president of Kenya. His character, unfortunately, does not allow him to think in that manner. Which is okay, because you Kenyans elected him. You Kenyans, in your wisdom, looked at his character, or failed to look at his character, and you made a decision. Therefore, you must live with it. Although in 2022, you Kenyans have an option of learning from your past mistakes and emphasizing on looking very deeply at a candidate's character before you go into a polling booth and cast a vote for them, thus sealing your fate for the next 5 years. Actually, not 5 years. The way things have gone in Kenya in the past, once people get into power, you can't remove them. You will be sealing your fate for the next decade. 10 years of that character. You are omitted to look very closely at before casting a vote. It should now be very clear to those Kenyans who are neutral, like myself, that in 2013, a better choice, a much better choice, would have been the character of Kalonzo Musyoka as deputy president. With all his shortfalls, with all his issues, he would have been a much better choice. Folks, that is the truth. But Wakenya ni nani? Huyu mtu ni mtu wetu, ni kabila yetu. Chris, you're crazy. How can I vote for another tribe? It doesn't matter. Huyu mtu ni wetu, ni kabila yangu. I have to vote for him. Shut up, Chris. Okay, I will shut up. But in the middle of the crisis we are now facing, me and you, those who voted for the man and those who didn't, I would like you to repeat the same words. Kwa sababu sahi, tunaumia. And the sad news, mambo bado. Tena bado sana. It looks like we have another 11 months, 10.5 months of very serious suffering. The same voter who entered a polling booth in 2013 and even in 2017, fat, sweating, very healthy, with very few problems in this life, will enter the 2022 polling booth impoverished, nguo zimeraruka, hungry, auctioned, nyumba imefungwa na landlord, etc., etc. But guess what? Most analysts predict that guy, that humbled man and woman, will still vote tribe first. The other things later. Sasa, mtu kama huyo, utamsaidiaje? Utamsaidiaje? How will you assist such a person? Even a psychiatrist, mtu wa kuangalia shida ya akili, cannot help in this instance. Because this tribal spirit in Kenya is strong. It is maduong. And so, all I can say, unfortunately, is one word. Tujipange. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.